4 episodes in, and I think it's 4 good ones. Hello and welcome back to the Board Hoovian YouTube channel, and I'm here with another review. 4 weeks in a row. Who knew I could actually get this done? This will be the earliest I've got one out so far this series, which I am proud of. And yeah, we're talking about Lucky Day, the Dr. Light episode of this series. And yeah, what can I say about this one? Well, first of all, we went into this knowing that Ruby Sunday would come back. We knew the Doctor would be away from it. And last series, it kind of annoyed me that in an 8-episode series, you had basically 2 kind of Dr. Lights, because the Doctor isn't in Dot and Bubble as much. He's still in it quite a bit, but not as much. In an 8-episode series where you're trying to introduce a new Doctor. In this one, I think, first of all, I think it worked so much better. Also because it had a point, it had a reason to be there. And because it wasn't just a story in its own right, it was also, as you can tell throughout the nature of the story, explaining what other characters are who are going to come back in the finale, and also putting seeds in place for the finale. So it has a really good purpose, and also there's a brief Doctor moment at the end, which I will get to, which I think is really, really great. So what happens with the actual story? Well, we find a young boy, Connor, when the Doctor and Belinda are landing on New Year's Day 2007. He gives the boy a coin telling him it's his lucky day. And his lucky day probably doesn't really come. He has some bad relationship with his mother. We see that, and then we fast forward and he's kind of obsessed over this. And in the process of obsessing over this moment, he's looked into like aliens, the Doctor, the TARDIS, whatever. In this process, he one day spots the TARDIS, and this is supposed to be 1 year in the past. He sees the Doctor and Ruby fighting a monster called the Shriek. He gets marked, but in the process, he takes a photo of Ruby, then finds Ruby, has a podcast with Ruby, and then we see him eventually turn on her, and he's actually kind of trying to get into UNIT and attack UNIT, as he doesn't believe in them. And it's later revealed that he interviewed for UNIT and wasn't allowed in. Do I think the plot's good? I think the plot's absolutely fine. Having like an understandable plot is never a bad thing. Sometimes I think Doctor Who can be too convoluted, and that's what I like when they kind of really ground it and have like earthbound stories, because there's not going to be any timey-wimey or whatever aspects to this. And I think that this story really does a good job of making a villain that you really feel kind of strong emotionally about. That's not an alien, he's not a monster, he's not scary, he's just a bit despicable, and that's really good. That's what I've seen the reaction online. People are really hating this character, which shows the actor has done an amazing job. I think it's important to talk about Ruby Sunday's return and what I think about that. I didn't do any videos for season 1, but my opinions on Ruby Sunday last series were maybe that like, I didn't dislike her character. She had some good moments, but I just felt like there was a lack of character development because there was so much focus on the kind of who's her mother aspect, and you know, we don't know what she does with her friends. We know she kind of plays in a band. We don't know what she does for a living. Her family, we saw them briefly, but not enough, and I just kind of wanted to see more, to know more, and I think she's a more interesting character now that she's left the Doctor, as they clearly focus on and even mention the word PTSD. They're saying that she has post-traumatic stress from travelling with the Doctor. And we've seen companions in the past leave the Doctor and be like, oh, I missed the adventure, like I can't just go back. And this is a kind of twist on that, where she's not like missing, she does miss the adventure, but it's also the fact that she's gone from running a million times a second, she's gone from near-death experiences to just living a normal life. And that PTSD angle really is a really good angle, and I think that's really good. I feel like Russell probably, you know, must have had some words in there for how to characterise Ruby Sunday. That might not have been a Pete McTeague idea, but on Pete McTeague, I really like this story, and I think it's probably the best story he's written for Doctor Who. For those who don't know, he also wrote Kablam and Praxeus. I wouldn't say either of them are awful. I like Kablam more, but with both of them I have some issues with them, but this isn't the time to talk about them. With more on Ruby, I think as well, you see that, you know, her family comment that she's not talking about the Doctor as much when she's in that relationship with Connor, and that's really interesting because like she's clearly like looking, she says I need you to him, like this is what I need right now, and it's not helping. She's still exploding all of this doctor information just on someone else. She just needs to talk to someone about it, and it's clear that she just needs an outlet, and also maybe needs to stop talking about the Doctor, maybe needs to make her own life outside of the Doctor here, and it shows how hard it is to move on from the Doctor. I mean, to be honest, at the end when Kate says you have me, I felt like, because she's aware of it, she should have just said go to the little like companion group at the end of Power of the Doctor. Imagine her and like, I don't know, Graham or like Dan, just have a little chat, meet Yaz, you know. Yaz will tell you it can be much worse. The Doctor literally is about to regenerate and just goes, yeah, I think it's a good idea for us to leave. And I'm like, yeah, but anyway, that's what I think probably Kate should have done. The final note on Ruby, I think Millie Gibson's really good. I think it's a solid performance from her. The way you can see how awful she feels when she's turned on by Connor. And then at the end, when she's standing in front of him, she doesn't want him to get hurt. But then at the end, when she saves him, she just says, go to hell. And when he gets bit, you almost feel happy that he got that moment, because he literally had just had a near-death experience with the monster. And then once everything quiets down, goes, oh, your special effects have got good. And it's like, he deserved to get bitten. Not a great thing to say on a review, but he deserved that little moment, and he survived, so it's all fine. But it is an amazing performance from him. Now I need to talk about one of the final moments of the story where the Doctor materialises around Connor in his prison cell, and I think this is an amazing moment, purely because it's one of, I think, in what you actually see, one of the darkest things the Doctor's ever done, where he obviously speaks to Connor and basically is trying to tell him off and just say, like, look, you are not a good person. You have not done good things. You've betrayed my friend. I don't like what you've done. And the way you're spreading all these lies about UNIT, it's not good. You're not doing a good thing. You are special for the wrong reasons. Those are his words. And then, obviously, Connor has the little clapback where then he goes, but you've got lots of friends, and then mentions Belinda, which I really, really liked, because the way it seeds back into episode 1 with the mention of someone told me about you when he's talking to Belinda. And in that moment, you're thinking, is it a Time Lord? Is it like is it the Doctor in the future who's met him? And the fact that it's just Connor, who says it and, tells him about his future. And you can see in that moment, the Doctor's almost a bit like, you've told me about my future. That's something which you're not supposed to do. And in that moment, he knows he has to meet Belinda Chandra because he's been told about it. And the way he then talks to Connor to then basically tell him, it's insane saying it out loud, but he tells him when he's going to die and how he's going to die and how meaningless his life is. And if there was a moment I could compare it to, I'd actually compare it to a moment in Miracle Day where Captain Jack talks to, I forget the name of it, but it's the serial killer which survives the beginning of Miracle Day, where he speaks to him and says, I'm from the future, and basically says all the wonderful things Captain Jack's saying, and he goes, and your life is a speck. You are so tiny. I'd compare it to that. But the fact that the Doctor basically breaks his rule, he tells a man his future. You shouldn't tell, he's told him when he's going to die. I don't think he might. I have a feeling he won't die the way he said, because I think the finale of the series, and I think Mrs. Flood may have some different things and may change reality, and we'll get onto that as well, but I thought it was amazing, and I loved seeing darker sides of Ncuti. Finally, on to the ending. Obviously, he disappears. Mrs. Flood is the governor of the prison at this point. Obviously, she's really changing roles throughout the series, and we don't know how she's doing that, what she's doing, and she lets him escape and says it's his lucky day. Now, I think she's now going to take Connor under her wing and kind of use him to get what she wants, use him as the figurehead of whatever her plan is for the finale. And I think one important thing is Connor's final words to the Doctor, where after the whole death, after telling him his death, he doesn't really flinch. He then says, I reject your reality, get off my world, really emphasising the my. And I think that's going to be very important for the finale. With the reality wall, with the images we've seen from trailers and stuff, I have a feeling we might actually get to see his reality, and we might get to be in his world in the finale, and I can't wait to see it. But anyway, that's all I've got time for with this review. If I could give it a score, I'd give it an 8 out of 10, I think. I think it was a really good episode. I really enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to next week's The Story in the Engine. That looks really interesting. We've only got 2 more weeks of normal stories before the finale, but I'm all geared up and I'm ready, because I'm really enjoying this series so far. And I think most people R2. But yeah, like the video if you've enjoyed this one. Comment below what you thought of the episode. Did you have any grievances with it, or was it, your favourite episode ever? I've heard some people call it Love and Monsters 2.0. Don't know if that's harsh or not. I can see the similarities. However, subscribe if you are new to the channel, and don't forget to ding the bell. You'll be notified every single time I upload a video. I've been the Bored Whovian, and I'll see you around.